Hello and welcome to today's workshop, Intro to Ayurveda and Ayurvedic Cooking. My name is Stephanie Della Rose. I am a health coach, Ayurvedic nutritionist, also an intuitive guide, and I love retreats. I host retreats maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and they're usually based in some kind of a cleanse, along with yoga and various other spiritual practices, meditation, intention setting, and so on. So I wear a lot of different hats, and I'm excited to share with you today the wisdom of Ayurveda. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll jump into it. Okay, hopefully everyone is able to see my screen. This is under my Nurtured Health, which is my health coaching practice. And this workshop is for the yoga and cleanse retreat happening in about just over a week and a half, October 13th through 15th, I believe it is. And so today we are covering an intro to Ayurveda, which is also what we call kitchen medicine. And so we'll go over that. We'll talk about detoxes and clean eating. And one thing I just want to make sure we talk about is when making changes, it's important to go slow, have patience and compassion for yourself and the process. I also want to just stress that I am not a doctor. This is not a diagnosis or a treatment plan. So please consult your doctor before making any changes. Like I said before, I'm a health coach, an Ayurvedic nutritionist, and really I'm just someone who genuinely is concerned about public health. And that's why I lead workshops like this one, as well as retreats. I'm simply here to hold a space of exploration for each of us to discover new ways to improve our health. And also, I want to inspire greater self care. And so I am here learning along with you. And by the way, if you have any questions, please, put them in the chat and I'll address them as I go along. Or you can also email me hello@stephaniedelarose.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions over email as well. So, what is Ayurveda? Ayurveda is called the science of life, and it originated in India over 5,000 years ago. And they also call it the mother of all healing. It's a sister science to yoga, meaning that it's really based in some very similar concepts, such as the gunas, finding balance, metaphysical philosophy, and so on. Ayurveda and yoga are often practiced together. And so that's also why it's called a sister science. It's rooted in Vedic culture. So it's been taught for many thousands of years in an oral tradition from accomplished masters and disciples. It was also suppressed by British colonial rule. It's holistic self care based in self awareness. It focuses on nourishment and balance. And really, these are practical self care principles that we should have really learned in health class. And so with Ayurveda, it's based in this concept that everything in nature is comprised of space, air, fire, water, earth, and even you. So, according to Ayurvedic philosophy, the entire cosmos is really an interplay of the energies of the five elements. And everything in nature is composed of these five elements. Every person has a unique ratio of these five elements, and depending on which elements are most dominant, determines your dosha or constitution, which we'll get into next. So, doshas, your constitution. A dosha is a pattern of energy. So Ayurveda uses a lot of foreign terminology. And it took me a while to really understand when I was first learning all of this, but it's really very simple, natural way of looking at personal health. And you'll get used to the language. And really today with this workshop, since it's an intro to Ayurveda, we're really just planting seeds of awareness that will continue to unfold as you come on the retreat, if you're coming on the retreat, or just as you live your life, as you start to notice some of these principles and how they relate to your eating and other practices. So your dosha is determined at birth. And just as everyone has a unique fingerprint, each person has a particular pattern of energy, an individual combination of physical, mental, and emotional characteristics, which comprises their own constitution. So in Ayurveda, balance equals health, meaning that internal and external influences can act upon us to disturb our natural balance. Emotional state, food choices, seasons and weather, physical trauma, work, and family relationships. So all of these external influences can possibly throw us off balance, but we have practices and awareness that brings us back into balance. And so that's why self awareness is really key when it comes to Ayurveda. When we understand our own nature and when we've fallen out of balance, we're able to take the steps to regain balance. And lastly, long term imbalances equal disease. So it's when we've had a pattern of being imbalanced out of our natural state, our natural constitution for long periods of time, that disease really sets in. Dosha types. So we've got Vata, which the dominant elements are air and space. We have Pitta, where dominant elements are fire and water. Kapha, earth and water. And then we have primary and secondary doshas. So very rarely is somebody, all three doshas in perfect balance. That would be tridoshic. Typically, we have a primary and a secondary. So for me, my primary is Pitta, and I'd say I'm like, 70% Pitta. And then after that, it's mostly Kapha with a little bit of Vata, but primarily Pitta. And all of this will make sense as we carry on. Okay, so we're going to go through the doshas one by one, starting with Vata. And so yeah, Vata is the characteristics are cold, light, dry, rough, flowing, and spacious. The seasons are represented by the doshas. So they're, sort of like a metaphor. So you can look at autumn. Autumn represents Vata for its cool, crisp days. So right now we're in Vata season. Vata people are usually described as slim, energetic, and creative. They're known for thinking outside the box, but can become easily distracted. They don't put on weight easily, no matter how much they eat. And their strengths are that they learn quickly, they're highly creative, they're multitaskers, kind hearted, flexible, on the go, and like I said, naturally slim. Oops. Their weaknesses are they tend to be forgetful, anxious, they can have unstable mood, be overwhelmed easily, highly sensitive to the cold, trouble sleeping, irregular appetite and eating patterns, prone to digestive issues and gas. They also tend to have poor circulation, so cold hands and feet. It's important for them to follow a regular daily routine, manage stress through meditation and other calming activities, and maintain a warm body temperature by avoiding cold weather and consuming warm food and drinks. So you might be looking at this and say, wow, I'm not really naturally, tall and slender, or they don't even have to be tall. It's really more about being naturally slender with Vata. But I do get cold hands and feet all the time, and my circulation is terrible. So that's normal. Like I said before, we're not usually all the way one or all the way another. We tend to, well, we have all of these elements playing out within us in different patterns. So we can have qualities of Vata and also qualities of others. So it's important to keep that in mind. And again, these constitutions have to do with our body, mind, and spirit. So that's why it's talking about, forgetful and anxious. So it's the whole range, the holistic view at the person. So Pitta, which is what I am, these are the CEO types. They tend to be described as hot, light, sharp, oily, liquid, and mobile. Summer is known as Pitta season for its sunny, hot days. They usually have a muscular build. They're very athletic and they're strong leaders. That's why I said they're the CEOs generally. They're highly motivated, goal-oriented, and competitive. And they have an aggressive and tenacious nature. Their strengths are that they are intelligent, purposeful, learn quickly, self-determined. They master skills easily. There's a strong desire for success. They are strong natural leaders with quick metabolism, good circulation, healthy skin and hair. Weaknesses are they tend to be impatient, prone to conflict, always hungry, mood swings when hungry, prone to acne and inflammation, and sensitive to hot temperatures. Those with a pitta dominant dosha should focus on work life balance and avoid extreme heat in the form of weather or spicy foods. So, this very much resonates with me. And lastly, kapha. Kapha tends to be steady, stable, heavy, slow, cold, and soft. Spring is known as kapha season as many parts of the world slowly exit hibernation. They are strong, thick-boned, and caring. They're known for keeping things together and being a support system for others. Kapha dominant people rarely get upset. They think before acting and they go through life in a slow and deliberate manner. Their strengths are that they are empathetic, caring, trusting, patient, calm, wise, happy, romantic. They have strong bones and joints, healthy immune systems. And then weaknesses are they're prone to weight gain, slow metabolism, sluggishness, oversleeping, breathing issues such as asthma and allergies. They're at a higher risk of heart disease and mucus buildup, depression. They need regular motivation and encouragement. And they should focus on regular exercise, a healthy diet, maintaining a warm body temperature, such as by sitting in a sauna or eating warm food, and establishing a regular sleep routine. So, what's your type? So, Prakriti is the dosha that you were born with. So, it's what you were like as a small child. And then Vikriti is what are you like now? And so your Prakriti is really more your natural state. So where you are right now after a lifetime of potentially being out of balance, if you're quite different than when you were a kid, you can kind of look back to how you were as a kid and just notice the differences looking through this lens of the doshas. And then as far as finding out your type, you can use your gut to guess. That's typically the most effective in my opinion. So it's, really like focusing on the descriptions that I just gave and what really resonated with you. You probably noticed a lot of yourself in there as I was talking. There are also a lot of online quizzes that are available. So you can just search dosha quiz to find out your dosha. And they're, pretty accurate, but I would definitely check that against my gut if I were you. And then also using self-awareness. So, just paying attention to where you're at. Your constitution is your perfect reference, and your imbalance is really what you need to work on. So, your natural constitution, your prakriti, what you were like as a child, and where you are now, and how different that is, that's the imbalance. So, those are the things you want to work on. So, if you were naturally very slender and active as a kid, but now you're overweight and pretty lethargic, then there's probably something off with your eating or your practices. Another way to find out your type is to work with someone like myself, an Ayurvedic nutritionist and health coach. Okay, so some fundamental principles in Ayurveda are like attracts like, opposites balance, and then there are, specific food and self-care practices that we'll go over. So now that you know your dosha, you can really apply the concepts of like increases like and opposites balance in order to maintain a healthy constitution, no matter what your type is. Ayurveda really focuses on health by maintaining balanced energy. When there is minimal stress and the flow of energy within a person is balanced, the body's natural defense systems will be strong and can more easily defend against disease. In order to balance your dosha, you will eat food and herbs from nature that contain the opposite properties of whatever your imbalance is. So, just as a quick example, If you're dealing with a lot of heat in your body, a lot of heat rash, maybe your dosha is pitta and it's the middle of summer. So you've got a fiery constitution already and it's really hot outside. And maybe you've got some kind of a heat rash going on. Like I know my daughter had a heat rash last summer. You really want to focus on cooling foods such as like cucumber and dill. So that's, opposite balance. So you've got heat and you focus on cooling. So it's really important to connect with what's going on with you right now and then choose something that will help balance you out. So you might need completely different things a month from now, depending on the season, and such is the nature of balance. So that's why self-awareness is really important. We're constantly monitoring our state and choosing food and self-care practices that keep us in balance. So it's really a game of observation and response. It's a conversation between you and your body. This quote at the bottom, everything is medicine, everything is poison, is just profound. So with Ayurveda, there are a lot of rules and there are also no rules. For the most part, the question isn't whether foods are good or even good for you, but whether they're good for you right now, which really has to do with your particular body, but also your mind, emotions, the seasons, and your physical surroundings. So eating for your dosha, starting again with vata. So if you're vata, you're really like the air, you're light, free flowing, flighty. You would generally need more dense, nourishing, and grounding foods, nuts and seeds, fats and oils like ghee to ground and nourish, root vegetables. You would generally focus on sweet, sour, and salty taste. And then in balance, vata promotes creativity and flexibility, whereas out of balance, vata produces fear and anxiety. So eating for your dosha, pitta. So if you're pitta, you tend to be fiery and hot, and you want to focus on cooling foods. So these are things like sprouts, celery, cucumber, melons, coconut water. That pitta dosha tends to be aggravated by spicy and heated foods. When in balance, pitta promotes understanding and intelligence, whereas out of balance, it arouses anger, hatred, and jealousy. And kapha. So with kapha, kapha people tend to be naturally heavy, sturdy, and inert. Good foods for them are light, rough, and dry foods, such as bitter leafy greens, spinach, apples, pears, honey, lighter foods, and well-spiced dal. So dal is a lentil dish in India. It's delicious. In general, kapha people or people with a kapha imbalance, so somebody who's naturally slender, but a little heavier right now would want to focus on, they would want to avoid, dense foods like nuts, dairy, or anything else that hampers digestion. So that again varies person to person. Some people have, an egg sensitivity. You may want to stay away from eggs in that case. So in balance, kapha is good-natured, friendly, and peaceful. And out of balance, kapha tends to be selfish, greedy, and easily offended. So Ayurvedic cooking. Ayurvedic cooking is all about using food as medicine. So having good digestion and balance in the body is really important. Herbalism has its roots in Ayurveda. Herbs and spices are used to treat conditions of imbalance such as gas, indigestion, skin conditions, such as rashes and boils, and even one's temperament. Ayurvedic cooking also supports our overall digestive process. So the screen here, let me move my little, I'm not sure if you can see that, it says Agni and Ama. So Agni is the metabolic fire, and Ama is the toxins that can accumulate in the system. Yeah, and so there's a lot of focus on gut health and how well you can break down the foods that you're eating so you can absorb the nutrition and nourish your body. Food combining is also really important. Certain foods, when paired, can challenge digestion. And so I mentioned earlier, Agni is is really the metabolic fire. Ama is undigested matter, and ama can build up in the system and is seen as a form of toxin in Ayurveda. Ayurvedic cooking incorporates the six tastes, which are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, and astringent. I know we're not used to, especially like the word astringent, but I'll explain that in a moment. Um, but yeah, a balanced dish in Ayurveda generally combines elements of all. So sweet foods would be like honey, sweet potatoes, nuts. They are comforting, soothing, and they increase moisture in the system. Salty foods tend to be, well, salt, seaweed, celery. They are energizing and they help with nutrient absorption. Sour foods, sour foods are foods like citrus fruits, tamarind. They aid digestion and increase circulation, which nourishes the organs. Bitter foods are foods like arugula, Brussels sprouts, kale, coffee. They tend to be cleansing and they have what is considered a scraping quality. So they can like basically scrape the system as they move through. Pungent foods are, foods like chili, garlic, onion, and spices. So they tend to be drying. They can aid in digestion and they're really detoxifying. So a lot of detox plans will encourage spicy foods. Like I think of the Master Cleanse, which uses cayenne in the drinks, right? So that's because they tend to be detoxifying. And then astringent foods are foods like cabbage, green beans, and legumes, and they tend to be cooling and grounding. So the effect that I had listed for each one of them, such as cleansing, drying, cooling, is really an oversimplification of the effect on their body. It's quite a science, but that's like a pretty broad sweep. And you can tweak these flavors intentionally in order to find balance in body, mind, spirit. And then prana full foods. So prana full foods are foods that are high in prana. So prana is a word for life force energy. It is the animating force that brings everything to life on the earth plane. This is when I was talking about metaphysical concepts earlier, right? But it's pretty obvious that there's a life force energy, at least to me, at play. And some foods contain more or less of them. So heavily processed foods, such as foods that are boxed or bagged, they are not prana full foods. Pulling a carrot out of the ground or eating a blueberry off of a bush, that is prana full. It's enlivening. It's direct from nature. It's closer to the sun. So these are the foods that contain the most prana. So the closer to the harvest and the dirt, the better. And eating seasonally really, is important in Ayurveda too, staying aligned with the seasons. And seasonal foods have more prana, and not only more prana, but they actually have the effects that are needed for our body in order to maintain balance during the season that they are around. So it's a very interesting relationship. Nature is really perfect in its design as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, eating seasonally gives us the medicine that we need for that season. And then positive mindset is really important in Ayurvedic cooking. So stress and anger while cooking, your food is imbued with that energy. Your energy is elsewhere, and so you're more likely to burn or over season food. So how you're showing up while you're preparing your food does affect the food itself, even, in a very non-spiritual way, right? If you're angry and preoccupied, you're not going to be tending to the food with the same love and care, and the food just isn't going to be prepared as well as it would have if you were showing up with love and presence. Yeah. And so one of my other favorite proverbs, which is why I put it here in the show, is when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. All right. So digestibility. There's, like I said earlier, a strong focus on digestibility to support Agni, which again is our metabolic fire. So let's talk about food stacking. Food stacking is when you do not allow proper digestion of one meal before consuming the next meal. So snacking. Excuse me. We've been told, there's so many fads and everybody has an opinion around diet. Again, Ayurveda has been around for 5,000 years. So to me, I tend to trust time-tested traditions. And so this idea of snacking all day long to keep our metabolism up really doesn't jive with Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, you want to give the body breaks. You want to give the digestive system breaks. And so food stacking is not encouraged. And then poor food combining leads to internal fermentation, indigestion, and putrefaction. Food combining is so important. It just blows my mind. I did not learn it in health class. I feel like that should have been taught. But foods eaten together should have compatible pH levels. So certain foods have an alkaline forming effect on the body, while others are more acidic. And it's believed that pairing foods with compatible pH levels makes digestion just much more efficient. So you're not, pumping out as much stomach acid, if the foods are similar. So less work for the body. And then we want similar digestion speeds. So some foods digest faster than others. Proponents of food combining say that pairing foods with similar digestion speeds is best to avoid overloading the digestive system and making it inefficient. So, for example, eating a big steak, which takes a long time to digest, and then eating a handful of blueberries for dessert, the blueberries, they're sitting in the digestive tract while it's dealing with the steak. The blueberries themselves have to ferment because they don't take as long to digest. They're breaking down in that environment. They ferment in the system, which can cause gas and all sorts of other issues. So that's an example of similar digestion speeds. I also want to talk about food stacking again, just real quick before we leave this slide. It's when we think of the Agni, or metabolic fire, right? Just like a real fire, when you have a bonfire, sometimes in order to maintain the flame and keep the fire going, sometimes you want to put another log on the flame, right? Because it doesn't have enough to burn, right? So maybe sometimes we need more food, more energy. And then other times, right, the fire can get bogged down and it's about getting more air into the fire, right? Adjusting the logs so there's airflow through the fire or fanning it, right? So we're not always feeding that fire in order to keep it ablaze. And it's the same with our metabolism. Sometimes we're eating, right, in order to keep our metabolism going. And sometimes when we continue to eat, it dampens our metabolism. It's too much. So food combining. So if you look at these are bad food combinations according to Ayurveda. So we've got bananas and milk. There are a lot of them actually. And also traditional Chinese medicine has very similar food combining rules. These are the most important ones, I would say: bananas and milk, nightshades and cheese. Nightshades are, produce that grow at night. So these are things like eggplant, tomato, bell peppers. Those are the main ones, potatoes, and I think even tobacco is a nightshade, and tobacco is consumed in food sometimes. Tobacco leaves in Thai cooking. I remember experiencing that in Thailand, which was interesting. But nightshades and cheese should not be combined. So, like a baked potato loaded with cheese, not a good combo. Dairy and fruit, beans and cheese, meat and starches. So a big steak and a potato is not a good food combination in Ayurvedic cooking. And then meat and dairy. If you look at these six, there are six on the screen, dairy is involved in 5 out of 6. So just dropping dairy is actually huge in terms of good food combining practices. So food combining best practices. You want to keep proteins simple and separate. Dairy is best eaten alone or with other grains. You don't want to mix dairy with other animal protein. Fruit is best eaten alone or cooked in small amounts when combined with other food. And the heavier the food, the heavier it's going to be on digestion. when it comes to food combining, there are a lot of rules. And so I just want to say here that, if you're still eating a lot of heavily processed foods or, M&Ms on your lunch break every day, then I wouldn't worry about food combining so much. I would worry about or I guess I should say, I would spend my time and focus my energy more on switching from processed foods to a whole foods diet and finding healthier alternatives for some of the snacks, like the chocolate bars. There's healthy eating is kind of like a ladder, right? And the lower rungs are like dropping pop and potato chips and drinking more water, right? And then up on the higher rungs, you're refining the diet more and more. And that's really when you want to look at food combining. So just for whatever that's worth. The Ayurvedic cleanse. So, Ayurveda has a long tradition of fasting as a vital practice for maintaining and regulating health. Fasting is often viewed as a type of deprivation in Western culture, but can really be viewed as giving ourselves a much needed rest from the constant barrage of foods and experiences that we take in. Ayurvedic fasting does not mean going completely without food. It simply involves eating a cleaner, lighter diet appropriate for cleansing ama or accumulated toxins. Ayurveda believes that ama is the root cause of disease. It is a result of poor digestion of whatever we take into the body, which is why we need strong Agni. And in modern times, we also have man made chemicals that we are contending with. So, just want to talk about modern day toxins. Most of the toxins that we face now have only been in the environment for the last 60 to 70 years. The EPA has an inventory of over 86,000 man-made chemicals that are in the environment, most of them with little to no safety testing. A high toxic load can tap your body, lead a high toxic load can tap your body out, leading to adrenal exhaustion and other more serious conditions like cancer, MS, dementia, etc. And genetics tend to determine where the chain breaks, so the weak link. Um, yeah, so it's like if we have a history of heart disease in our family, for example, that is genetically part of the chain, right? The chain of DNA that we're born with. When we have a lot of stress in our life, whether that's physical, mental, or emotional, and from the physical side, that would be, eating processed foods is very stressful to the body because the body doesn't know what, preservatives and additives and all of the chemicals that they put in that food. It doesn't know what those are, and it doesn't know how to digest those foods. And they create an immune system response in the body every time we eat them. And so that's an example of physical stressor, right? So if we're eating a poor diet, what happens is we have that history of heart disease. We're eating that poor diet. We may have other forms of stress in our body. The stress is what actually breaks the chain, and the chain breaks in its weakest spot. So in this case, the weakest spot being a history of heart disease. That'll be how these stresses manifest in our health, unfortunately. So chemicals are found in, food, pesticides, herbicides, synthetic hormones, additives, and preservatives. In the air, it can happen from mold, dust, particulates, and chemicals from indoor air pollution. In the water, they add fluoride to the water, which is a known neurotoxin. Chlorine, PFAS, PFAS, which are forever chemicals that don't break down in the environment, microplastics, and heavy metals. They can be in your personal care and cleaning products, and also pharmaceuticals and other everyday items such as nonstick cookware, toxic mold, and even the ink from receipts, which is why it's important to detox every once in a while, which is what we're going to do. And so the body, it does know how to detox. We have these detox organs. We've got the liver, kidney, bladder, colon, lungs, and skin. And so, detoxification refers to biological processes that are happening all the time in order to eliminate waste. And the body has its own cleansing system using these organs. These organs are capable of cleaning and removing natural waste, but can become overburdened burdened with our modern way of life. So modern times really require us to optimize these processes. Cleansing, in my opinion, is more important than ever. And so let's talk about the benefits of an Ayurvedic cleanse. So it eliminates accumulated toxins, removes heaviness and congestion in the body in order to reestablish balance. It can calm the mind and nervous system. It fosters clarity and groundedness, supports sound sleep, improves digestion and regular elimination, prepares the tissues for deep nourishment and rejuvenation, supports a healthy body weight or weight loss, improves sense of energy and vitality, and it promotes optimal health. And so, the Ayurvedic cleanse is really a Khichdi cleanse, and I'll get into what Khichdi is, but it can be used to really reset what you're eating and realign with healthier choices. When to cleanse. So this is the perfect time for us to cleanse, spring and fall. So that change of season. In Ayurveda, they really consider that kind of like an in-between change of season. So from summer to winter, we've got fall. From winter to summer, we've got spring. So really it's like this preparatory practice. So in the spring, we're detoxing, everything that we accumulated in winter in order to prepare for the busy summer season. And then in fall, we are detoxing, from summer in order to prepare for winter, where we tend to eat heavier foods and might be accumulating more toxins. So we're giving that body a reset. But really, it's great anytime you need it. So if it's the middle of summer and you're feeling like a cleanse, go for it. It's really for any time that you feel sluggish, tired, or simply want to optimize your health. Signs of ama accumulation are cravings, mood swings, fatigue, fogginess, anxiety, bad breath, a thick coating on the tongue, body odor, and sluggishness. Now is a great time to consider doing a simple fall cleanse. A cleanse is an easy way to buffer your health and protect your well-being for the coming months and beyond. If you continue to indulge in poor dietary habits and create more ama, so again, those toxins, this toxic undigested food stuff eventually migrates into the bloodstream and circulates throughout the body. This sticky, heavy ama then settles into our weak spots, which in Ayurveda they call kavaigunyas, which when they settle into these weak spots, it eventually manifests in more serious conditions. So it's important to halt and eliminate the accumulation of ama before it causes deeper problems. So how to do an Ayurvedic cleanse. So a Khichdi cleanse can be anywhere from 3 to 10 days. I will often just do a single day of Khichdi when I'm unwell or if I've overindulged. So, maybe I went to a party the night before. The next day, I might do an Ayurvedic cleanse. So generally during a longer cleanse, you'll do a mono diet of Khichdi. The word Khichdi means mixture, and the Khichdi dish itself is usually a combination of a grain and a legume made into a warm soup or a porridge. This dish commonly uses rice and mung beans. Though legumes in general are difficult to digest for most people, lentils and mung beans are actually easier to digest, especially the type that we use for the cleanse, which is yellow mung dal, which is a yellow split legume. They've taken the skin off of it and they've split the lentils. And so that's really very easily digested, especially once you add all of these other spices in. So easy to digest, well-cooked vegetables like leafy greens and carrots can also be eaten during the cleanse. So sometimes people will add vegetables to their Khichdi. And then grain dishes like oatmeal can often be a part of it too. So oatmeal is very easily digested. And so just in order to get some variation, people will also eat oatmeal during the cleanse. Water and tea are allowed. A tea made of a tea made of cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds, affectionately known as CCFT, is beneficial for everyone as it supports the digestive fire while gently removing toxins. salsala is another herbal combination that is beneficial for most people during a fast, as it is a gentle detoxifier and supports the digestive system while promoting healthy elimination. And then hydrating teas and specific herbs may be selected for helping to balance the doshas. Water and tea are the preferred beverages during a cleanse. So the stages of an Ayurvedic cleanse, there's the pre-cleanse, which can last for up to a week. There is the cleanse itself, which is 3 to 10 days on average, but it can be up to 21 days. And then there's the post-cleanse, which is a week to 10 days. So the pre-cleanse, up to 1 week before the start of the cleanse is the pre-cleanse. And during this time, we want to eliminate highly acidic foods during a cleanse. So these are things like conventional meat, fish and eggs, conventional dairy, unhealthy fats like margarine and seed oils, GMOs and non-organic foods, refined sugars, caffeine and alcohol, processed foods and drinks. So frozen foods and fast food, anything packaged. So during this time, you may cut back on these foods. Highly acidic foods are difficult for the body to digest. Alkalinity is really important during a detox. Toxins or a highly acidic diet create fat cells that are trying to neutralize them, working against the overall process. So during the cleanse itself, at a minimum, you should be eating a grain dish at breakfast and khichdi for lunch and dinner. You can also add in approved foods during those meal times. Snacking is limited, but you can reach for fresh fruit or raw nuts if you find yourself hungry between meals and unable to wait. Hydration is important, so you'll aim for 8 to 12 servings of water or tea during the day. You want to make sure that you have limited responsibilities. So I really like to do cleanses over the weekend. And some tea that can be helpful is milk thistle, which is a gentle liver detoxification support. Dandelion root, this is another helpful tea for detoxing. And it can even make a delicious coffee replacement when the root is finely ground, often with chicory and then brewed like coffee. So I actually will likely have some of this at the retreat for us. And then nettles. So stinging nettles are a mineral-rich herb, often taken as a tea that can act as a gentle diuretic and aid in toxin removal. So post-cleanse, we want to slowly reintroduce foods. We want to keep eating khichdi if desired and perform regularly as a reset if feeling imbalanced. So slowly reintroducing foods and ingredients back into the diet over a week to 10 days. You may keep eating khichdi for a few days even after the cleanse is over, but you can begin to add other foods from your regular diet back into your eating plan. Doing this will make sure that you don't upset your digestive system or return to old habits too quickly, potentially reversing the effects of the cleanse. The great thing about khichdi is because it's an actual balanced meal with all 3 macronutrients, you can actually have it for as long as you want. My teachers in India have had it every day for their entire lives. But really, it's important to remember that cleanses give your body time to reset. And the true benefit of a khichdi cleanse, or any cleanse for that matter, is the period of time that you're giving the body to reset what you're doing. The true benefit of a khichdi cleanse, or any cleanse for that matter, is the period of time they give you to reset what you're eating and what you're doing. So poor habits are easy to make over the course of weeks or months. A detox or a cleanse, whether it's the khichdi cleanse or another type of cleanse, helps you break those ingrained practices. So the proof is really in how you feel after completing the cleanse, and also 5,000 years of history in India of Ayurveda. Plug my laptop in real quick. All right. Yeah, so what we're doing this weekend for the retreat is really more of a pre-cleanse. So we will have eliminated a lot of those those foods that I mentioned earlier, the highly acidic foods, we won't be consuming those during the retreat, but really still it's more of a pre-cleanse because we will be eating other types of foods, not just kitchery. But I am going to be creating kitchery packs that I'll have for sale um, there, and it's a 3 day worth. So, the retreat itself is the pre-cleanse. If you're interested in purchasing a kitchery pack, which is $49, they're not much for 3 days worth of food. And then after that, you want to go back to slowly reintroducing your regular diet. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much. I hope that you enjoy your kitchery on retreat. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys all in person. And yeah, I'll see you in about a week. Namaste, everyone.